5 things we learned from the Premier League this weekend. We're going to start off with Arsenal. What a result. And when you have sort of 24 hours to look back on a result like that, you've got to realise how good it is to win away from home against Big Six opposition, North London derby. The back four were superb. The way Trossard and Havertz dropped in to create this kind of midfield press was fantastic. And then you've got to compliment the likes of Partey and Jorginho coming in. Jorginho in particular barely played a minute of football for quite some time now, since basically the end of last season. And you have to say, Mikel Arteta's getting the most out of this side. The big one for me is Urian Timber at left back. There are some strange shouts that he should have been sent off. I think absolutely ludicrous, including Sky pundits saying he should have got sent off, which I cannot believe. He gets the ball. It's a fantastic tackle, really. But all game, Urian Timber's position was absolutely superb. He's only playing against Brennan Johnson. I think he's lucky to be playing in the Premier League, with all due respect, Johnson. But Johnson offers a lot of pace in behind, a lot of energy, a fundamental lack of end product, don't get me wrong. But Urian Timber matched him yard for yard, and I think he was absolutely fantastic. And this is the kind of performances we would have seen last season if he didn't get injured. He started off fantastic. I know he got injured basically in the first game. But Urian Timber, for me, what a signing he is. He's basically a new signing this season. And he complements that back four. He offers far more defensive nous than Zinchenko. I think he's going to offer more mobility than Calafiori. I think Calafiori is going to struggle to get into his side, really. I think the Champions League offers opportunities, of course, the League Cup, the FA Cup. But the starting 11 for me makes a lot more sense next week when Declan Rice comes back. Maybe Odegaard's back for the Man City game. I think that makes a lot more sense with Urian Timber at left back. Absolutely superb, and he's so good on the ball. He can build into midfield, link up play very, very well. He was absolutely fantastic. It is a massive, massive result. And we've got to look forward to the Man City performance. What I'm talking about, the defence for Arsenal, I think you can replicate that against Man City. I think Arsenal can be very, very narrow, stop any of these kind of the wing play from Savinho, for example, from Jeremy Doku, from Grealish. Be narrow, trying to aim for that 0-0 result that Arsenal got last season. And then get something special out the front line, because Saka is building into every season. He's getting better and better. He was a little bit limited in this game, picked up a knock as well right at the end of the game. But if he's fit, I think Arsenal have got to be trying to hit City on the counter-attack and building into this kind of defensive performance. Think of what Arsenal did against Spurs. They gave up very few chances to Spurs, really. And then you look at what they've done defensively this season. 1 goal conceded all season, 3 clean sheets. David Raya looked fantastic. And then you add in Declan Rice into that, who I think is going to complement the Arsenal side massively going into the Man City game. The Champions League fixtures obviously coming up as well. So I think Arsenal are in a far stronger position. And it's strange, because football is such a almost trivial, quite flippant sort of discussion sometimes. One loss to Spurs and suddenly it derails a Premier League campaign so early, potentially, and momentum stops too early in the season, I think, to try and catch up to Man City. But winning the game, beating Man City next week, which I still think is a massive possibility for Arsenal, and things do look a lot more positive than I think people were giving Arsenal credit for. So the first thing we've learned is that Arsenal, their defensive security, the amount of goals they've conceded this season, which is outrageous. That's the kind of numbers that Chelsea were getting if you kind of aggregate that across the season, with Mourinho's 15-goal record in 2004-05. So unbelievable. They've got a lot to build on, and it's a lot of confidence going into the Man City game. Let's move on to Liverpool. I'm really shocked about the Nottingham Forest performance. I think going into the Forest game, Liverpool were probably the best side in the Premier League on form. I know Haaland's goals have probably contributed to Man City's perfect start, but in terms of the way they move in the ball, in terms of McAllister and Gravenberch in midfield, they were absolutely fantastic. Came off the back of a Man United performance where they were dominating in a way that it was embarrassing for Man United. And you just wonder, has the international break affected things? Were there things that weren't quite communicated in this kind of game? Maybe this is the first time Arne Slot's come up against a side that is both going to have this kind of deep block, but also have quality on the counter-attack. I mean, in the Premier League, you'll come up against a side, there's a good chance Forest comes 16th this season, and they still have some unbelievable international players like Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, unbelievable talent. He came out of Manchester United, he scored goals in the Champions League, and he's playing for Nottingham Forest. And there's a fair chance Forest come 15th. They might come 10th. They might come 16th. That kind of range. But Arne Slot is going to have to figure out a way of playing against sides at the bottom half of the table that have got so much quality. The Premier League is a ruthless league. And the way they sat back and kind of used Alanga, used Hudson-Odoi right at the end, they could have had 3 Nottingham Forest. And I think there are some massive gaps in the midfield for Liverpool. I've been saying it on this channel. A lot of Liverpool fans have been slagging me off. Gravenberch for both chances where Alanga blazed one over. Hudson-Odoi cuts in on Conor Bradley and scores a beautiful, beautiful goal. Both opportunities, both turnovers from Nottingham Forest are the ball being played through midfield very, very quickly. And if you look at Gravenberch trying to press, he just doesn't get there in time. And maybe I'm being harsh, but Rodri's genius, Kante's genius, Casemiro in his prime's genius, anyone you want to say, is getting to things early in midfield and closing down space, closing down opportunities early. And you do feel that Gravenberch was a little bit off it in terms of the press. And that'll be Liverpool's issue. I don't think McAllister and Gravenberch is a defensive midfield partnership going up against sides that can counter-attack, going up against sides that got nothing to prove. You felt that Ipswich maybe a little bit too philosophical. If they'd be a little bit more rugged, a little bit more conservative, they could have done something similar to Liverpool as well. And when Nottingham Forest or any other side comes to Anfield in particular, they've got no excuses. They can just do whatever they want. They can sit back and try and hold on. Forest haven't won there in decades. So they were happy to sit there, very, very flat defence, low block, and hit them on the counter-attack. And Liverpool got to figure out a way of either being more ruthless and outscoring sides before they eventually get counter-attacks themselves, or sort out the midfield, where I felt it was a yard off, pressing the ball high, in my honest opinion. You look at sometimes Van Dijk losing the ball in the air, Trent running backwards, Conor Bradley exposed one-on-one. Any back line, including Nesta, Cannavaro, Baresi, Maldini, Beckenbauer, they all get exposed if there's no midfield protection ahead of them. If the side ahead of them aren't pressing or keeping the ball better. And you feel that Liverpool's back four were exposed in this game. So lots of learning for Liverpool going into their next few fixtures. And of course, huge Champions League game on Tuesday, I think it is. Are they in the title race? Let me know in the comments down below. Have to move on to Man City. Very, very crucial win against Brentford. Brentford scored early, just like Ipswich. And that gives a lot of belief, I think, to Arsenal. I think potentially to Liverpool as an outside shout that you can score early against City. And I think if Brentford had, if they weren't coming up against unbelievable quality in Erling Haaland, then maybe they could have held on or done something a little bit different. And Brentford have picked up results against City before, but they're coming up against a juggernaut, someone I've never seen score 9 goals in four Premier League appearances. Outrageous. But they were able to shut up Grealish a little bit. They were able to shut up Savinho. The press from Man City were able to get broken down by Brentford quite easy. They did have their chances. They justified the early lead, don't get me wrong. But you do think that City, if they can just sit there with Haaland, almost all problems defensively aren't going to be exposed at this point in the season. I think if Man City come up against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-finals, let's say Bayern Munich, the midfield press, which obviously will include Phil Foden, will include Rodri, who aren't featuring yet because of the Euros, will be a lot stronger. But at the moment, you can play through City a little bit. The press is a little bit off. I don't think Kovacic is a starter going into the business end of the season, but we're early. And Haaland scoring outrageous goals. He's scoring a goal that I saw similar. Aguero scored one direct from Edison against Huddersfield Town. Must have been 2018, 2019. Outrageous. So once Haaland stops scoring, then there'll be some serious issues. But that's a big if. When is that going to happen? I think there's a chance he could hit 40 Premier League goals this season. I'm not even joking. So City look very, very strong. Ilkay Gundogan coming in is unbelievable. De Bruyne. You got Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, Grealish. It is the strongest side, I think, in Europe, and it's outrageous. So basically, City are going from strength to strength. Have to talk about Everton, back-to-back 2-0 leads, getting evaporated into 3-2 losses. I think you're being very harsh if you think Sean Dyche needs to be sacked. I'm seeing a lot of quality. Everton were able to expose Aston Villa many times. Dwight McNeil scored a fantastic goal. Calvert-Lewin actually scored a goal. Fantastic for him. He missed so many chances. But I still think the Everton build-up plays good enough. I still think the fact they've got Keane in the back line is worrying. And I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think if he could have strengthened that position, he would have. And the goal for Jack Harrison kind of leading it into the Aston Villa player is just a bit unlucky. I still think Everton has shown so much quality to go away from home and score 2 great goals. I do think that there's a lot of quality there. I think there are sides that are struggling to even score goals in this league. Look at Southampton, for example. Barely scored a goal this season, maybe one. Everton are scoring goals. They're playing decent football. I think you'd be very harsh to slag off Sean Dyche more than is deserved right now. Finally, we have to talk about Chelsea. Has the strategy of just signing anyone on a gamble starting to work? Because Jadon Sancho gets man of the match against Bournemouth, an important win. Sanchez put in a big performance. I thought Sancho was absolutely fantastic. He was pulling strings, linking up play. His delivery, and it's not just about crossing, but his delivery of that kind of pass into the striker. First time, he's doing it a lot. He's got a very, very good kind of eye to play make, as well as just being an out-and-out winger. Very, very good. And maybe Chelsea are starting to build some form. They look far better, and they could have scored many goals against Bournemouth as well. A very, very important win. I went into the game thinking actually they were underdogs for this fixture. And actually a 1-0 win's very, very good. Clean sheet. Robert Sanchez, clean sheet. Not too bad indeed. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. 5 things we learned from the Premier League this weekend. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you very, very soon.